Hello my friends, and a very warm welcome back to my painting channel. And in this video I'm going to be painting 4 brand new skin tones that is going to be a continuation of my how to paint skin tutorials. So for this I am going to be painting a group of 4 different Fire Slayer models, and these are the Fire Slayers from Games Workshop. These are fantastic, highly detailed models that I've already primed in a nice flat grey colour, as you can see here. And we're going to paint these using a few different techniques, and it's going to give us a few different ideas on how to paint some skin. So part 1, we're going to use a dark brown colour. So we're going to use a very dark sort of skin tone for this one. And we're going to start by using a slightly different base as to normal, and we're going to use a Citadel Dryad Bark. Now the Dryad Bark is a brilliant dark brown colour. It has a really good dark tone to it that we can then build up and create some really great textures with. This is Citadel's version of a colour that I use quite often on the channel. So I use a paint by Vallejo called Dark Rust 302, and the Dark Rust colour is by far one of my most favourite paints because it is so versatile in terms of covering skin, or whether it be leather, or whether it be sort of wooden handles. There's so many good uses to this dark brown colour. Well, this Dryad Bark from Citadel is actually pretty much the same tone, so it's very close to the same tone as this 302 Dark Rust that I normally use quite a lot of. So if you're a Citadel user and you watch a lot of my channel and a lot of my videos, but you don't have the Vallejo paint, or you don't know what paint to replace that with, this Dryad Bark, is the perfect alternative for that. And that's all I'm going to do, is just paint all around the skin, and we're going to slowly build all of these models up as so. Now once that's dry, I'm going to use a soft tone from the Army Painter, and this is almost like a magical paint. Soft tone is a great color tone. It is a warm brown color tone, but it is a great paint in terms of it working really well with a lot of different colors. So because we've started with such a dark color, by placing this onto the miniature, this is going to darken up all of those little areas in the little recesses where all the sort of small runes and parts like that, and all of the folds of the muscle and the skin, and this is going to sit in all of those areas and pool in those areas and create a nice dark color. Now once that's dry, we're going to use the Dryad Bark, and we're also going to use a leather brown from the Army Painter, and that's all I'm going to do is use half of each. So I'm using half of the Dryad Bark and half of the leather brown. Now I normally say this is a 50-50. And that's all I'm doing with this, is by adding 50% of each, or one blob of each, or one small amount of each, we're going to create a really nice sort of half-stop colour tone up in this brown. And this is going to be the first sort of main texture, or the first sort of highlight tone to this dark skin tone. Now the cool thing with this is, whereas the wash, so that soft tone has dried down into those recess points and into all of those bits around the muscle tone, by building this up now gradually on all of those muscles, and by building this up around those sort of areas of muscle and those parts of the muscle that are really standing out and popping off the miniature, we started to gradually build that contrast, and this is going to create a really nice interesting sort of color tone to this skin. It's going to create a really nice contrast to this as well. So when we paint in things like the bright golds, the silvers, things like that, having this dark skin tone is really going to allow this to stand out and really make the model look very cool. So once that's done, we're going to then just use the leather brown on its own, and as you can see, I've used a little bit of water with this so that this manipulates and moves onto the miniature in a nice smooth even fashion. We're just going to slowly pick out all of those areas. So we're just going to start to pick areas that we want the highlights to be. So it's kind of like a little bit of that wet blending, or a little bit of the sort of building these tones and building these textures using a nice smooth paint. And that's all I'm going to do, is using that very fine size 0 brush, using the tip of the brush, just start to pick out all of those areas that I want the highlights to sort of build. So we're going just across all of those areas of the muscle that are really popping out of the miniature. Again, leaving all of the darker areas in those recess points, so leaving all of the darker wash and the darker paints just down in all of the areas where you can see the creases and the folds and all of these things in the skin and in the sort of muscle. And this is creating all of that tone, texture, definition on the model as well. And you can really see now that this contrast with this leather brown is really starting to kick through, and really sort of starting to allow the colour to pop on the miniature, and really starting to give us a little bit of character. and you can really see it starting to build and blend up through those muscle parts just across the back here. So as you can see, again, like I say, I'm just using the very tip of the brush and just gently using that to build up on all of those raised areas where all those muscles are really sort of jumping out and standing off the model, just like so. As you know, on this channel, I always like to show you sort of extended videos of how the painting is done and how I paint the models and things like that, because it gives you a much broader idea and a much better idea as to how I paint and how you can sort of paint along with me and things like that. We're just going to do the same thing around the face. As you can see, the cheekbones, the nose and things like that. And we're just going to build our highlight. Now once that's done, then we're going to use the leather brown and a monster brown. And again, just using 50-50, so half of each, one blob of each, so that we've got a really nice half and half tone. And this is going to give us that real nice half step, half tone up for the highlight. So that's just giving us the real nice extreme highlight just across the edges, just like so. And we're just once again going to pick out all of those areas of the muscle, the tone, the definition on the muscle, where all those muscles are really sort of popping off the miniature. That's what makes these Fire Slayers such fantastic models to paint in this way, because there's so much muscle definition, there's so much detail and character to the muscle that we're really able to sort of show you how we can build those tones up. And you can really see this sort of leather brown tone really starting to take effect on the model and create this amazing sort of skin tone and amazing definition on this one as well. So once all of that is done, you should have something that looks very similar to this. I've gone around now and just painted all of the extra little bits on to the miniature, just nice and quickly, so that it gives you an idea as to what it would look like when it's completed. So the dark skin tone, this real sort of deep brown skin tone, is as quick and as easy as this to make. It looks really great. It looks fantastic on the models, and it really does allow a lot of diversity and a lot of really great different tones within your models. So yep, that's the first one. So part two, then we're going to move on and use a bronze skin tone. So we're going to do a little bit more of a traditional skin tone with dwarves, because they tend to be painted quite often with a very sort of bronze kind of color to them. So we're going to explore this in a little bit more detail. So we're going to start by using the bronze flesh tone by Vallejo, and we're just going to cover all of the skin area on the model, just the same as we've just done with the previous miniature. And again, we're just going to try to cover this in a nice even thin coat, or 2 thin coats or 3 thin coats, depending on how much you thin your paints. And we're just going to make sure that we cover all of the skin area, as I say, nice and evenly. So I'm just using my basing brush for this, so I'm not being overly cautious or too careful. Doesn't matter too much, because we're going to fix up all of the other bits as we go. As long as we've got the base tones on, and then we can build up from there and really sort of get the contrast sort of flowing on the model. Like I say, this is more of a traditional tone for dwarves, so we're going to use that bronze colour, and we're really going to build this into a more traditional sort of bronzy kind of colour for them. I'm going to go back once all that's dry and use the soft tone again, and as you can see with this, you can see just where this is starting to sit in all of those recess points, especially around the runes and all things like that. You can see once it starts to sit on the model, you can see where it's already starting to do the work and show you where those muscles are and where the muscle tone and definition is that we can build back up from. So once the wash is dry, we're going to go back to that base paint of our bronze flesh tone, and using that size 0 brush and just using the tip of the brush, we're going to slowly build this color back up just the same way as we have done previously. So like the other videos that I've got in this sort of series where we paint the same kind of model and just build it in different ways, I'm just going to give you a little bit of an idea and show you the same technique across all 4 models, so this makes it nice and simple, nice and easy to follow along. It's very quick, very easy. But what we're doing is using a little bit of water just to make sure that this paint is easy to manipulate onto the miniature. As I always say, a little bit of water and we'll get the paint flowing onto the model nice and easily. And using that size 0 brush, we're just going to paint all of those bigger areas of the muscle, all of those muscle tones and muscle definition that's really popping out, while leaving that soft tone wash just sitting down in all of those recesses. And again, that's creating the texture, the definition, and all of those sort of tones and streaks and definition in the muscle as well. That's creating a real nice contrast and giving us the ability of, to have sort of a real nice base area that we can really build the contrast for. cool thing with painting skin is something that I really enjoy to do, and the cool thing with painting skin is you can really push the contrast as far or as extreme as you like. You can really play about with this. When I show you all of these different skin tones, the majority of it is mostly just about giving you guys an idea as to what you can achieve and how you can paint it using very simple, quick techniques. I know a lot of people tend to get a little bit worried or a little bit sort of like scared of painting skin because it's such an awkward on times thing to paint, but once you've got a few different techniques down, painting skin is quite fun, it's quite liberating, and it's actually very rewarding, especially on models where you have a lot of skin like so, because this is one of the areas of the model that people are going to notice the most. Because these models are full of skin, that's something that you really want to make sure that you paint really well so that it looks amazing. Now, once the bronze flesh tone is dry, we're going to use half and half with the bronze flesh tone and the elf skin tone. And we're going to do this so that this gives us a nice, natural, even sort of highlight. So again, 50-50, this is just one blob of each of those colors, and that's going to give us a real nice half stop up in terms of our contrast. And again, using the very tip of the size 0 brush, like I've said before, we're just going to do the same technique as we did with the previous model. And we're just going to slowly build this texture up, because this is now going to be our first proper highlight. And as you can see, avoiding areas where the shade is sitting in those recess points, we're just going to build this tone up and create a really nice sort of light contrast. Again, making sure that there's a little bit of water in the paint, so just 1 or 2 blobs of water to allow the paint to move and manipulate onto the miniature in a nice smooth fashion. And also it will allow the paint to dry down a lot smoother for you, so that it doesn't look like you've left really heavy, garish and sort of over the top blobs and over the top areas where the paint shouldn't be. What I'm doing here, just using the tip of the brush, especially across the shoulders, is by using the tip of the brush, I'm painting lines, but I'm also leaving some of the lines of the underneath colours, so the darker tones showing through. So it creates those sort of ridges in the muscle across the shoulder, creating an illusion that there's a lot of definition and tone and texture in the muscle. You can see just by me painting across the leg there, where I've left a little bit of the underlying colour there, that's giving us that tone, that definition. Makes his legs look a lot more, I don't want to say realistic, but it makes the legs look a lot less flat, so it gives you that tone, as I say. So it's giving you that illusion that there is a texture there as well. And this is something that is very easily achieved just by using the tip of the brush, and just by painting those brush strokes you can get this really cool, really nice, simple and even effect across your models as well. So again, just painting all of these areas, again, across the knuckles, the hands, the fingers, just trying to be careful not to allow the highlighting paints to fall in between sort of the fingers. We want this to be caught up on the top of the fingers, but not actually go into the recessed areas, because this is the highlighting layer now, not the overall layer. And again, you can see me just building this across all of these sort of areas of the muscle where it's really sort of popping off the miniature and really sort of standing out. You can really see that contrast really starting to show through. Once that's done, we're just going to use the elf skin tone on its own. So again, this is now going to be the next highlight, and this is where we're going to sort of build through a little bit more of that contrast, a little bit more of that highlighting again. Now, with each stage of the painting of highlights, we're just going to get a little bit more cautious as to where we place it. So we're going to use a little bit less each time. And as you can see, I'm just doing this now by using the tip of the brush to create those brush strokes and that illusion of contrast and that illusion of texture, as I said, across the shoulder areas. By being a little bit more cautious as to where we place this paint, that's then going to allow the highlights to again look that little bit more natural, a little bit more pleasing on the eye, and give us the ability to naturally build up and progress on these tones and these colours as well, without going too extreme and leaving big blobs everywhere and things like that. So again, just trying to be very careful around the knuckle areas as well. We don't want to go and let the paint sit in between the recessed areas. We kind of want the paint to sit on the fingers and on the knuckles. And again, as you can see, just picking out some of the areas I want the highlight to be, but just keeping that darker area underneath as well, so that creates the illusion of tone and texture and definition, like I've said before. So it's nice to see that with a little bit of a watered down or a little bit of a wet paint, just how much that paint is easily manipulated and how smooth that transitions onto the skin as well, just like so. Again, just picking out some of these areas. Again, like I say, just using the same technique across all of the models, because although the color tone and the color texture is different, the technique is going to stay the same. So we're just going to build the technique up in exactly the same way. And that's cool, because once you start getting used to doing techniques and painting in certain techniques and painting in certain styles, you become a lot more confident. It allows you to paint faster. It allows you to go out of your comfort zone and pick different color tones and different color themes and textures and things like that, and it allows you to really experiment with your painting as well. And that's ultimately what we're here for. That's what we want to do. We want to push our painting, try different things and learn different things. So don't forget, although I'm enjoying painting and showing you guys me painting, I'm learning as well. So a lot of these color tones and a lot of these color palettes that I'm using in this are all completely new to me as well. So I haven't tried this before. This is something that I'm using just for this particular video. So I'm learning as well. Now finally, once that's dry, we're going to use a small, and I mean a very small amount of sunny skin tone. And again, I'm just going to be very, very careful and very specific about where I place this one, because this is going to be ultimately the final highlight for this particular color. So we've gone with the darker skin tone to begin with, and now we're just looking for this bronze color. And with this bronze color, we've got that bronze, deep sort of bronzy tones for the base colors, but then as you can see, where we build in the highlights, we really sort of build in this extreme sort of edge, this kind of lighter tone. Now, the cool thing with this again is if you paint this across the top area of the arms but not across the bottom, that gives you that illusion of shadow as well while painting the skin. So this is giving you control over where the light is and where the shadow is on the miniature, just by painting where you want your highlights to be. This is a reason why a lot of people will use things like a zenithal highlight when they base coat or prime their models. It's because it gives them the idea as to where the light would be or where the light source would catch on the model, and then it allows them to build those highlights up in sort of an easier and a more even fashion, without having to overthink the miniature and overdo it on the miniature. You know, you kind of got it there for you as like a painting by numbers. But anyway, I'll talk a little bit more about that when I bring out a video on priming. So yeah, just showing you, as I say, very tip of the brush, just painting all the way around those highlights. And when everything is done, you should have something that looks a little bit like this. The bronze flesh tone is fantastic. I got a little bit sloppy and a little bit too fast when I was painting my silvers, and I got a few little black spots from the wash onto the model, but that's cool because no skin is perfect and no skin looks flat and perfect, so these could be little pock marks and things like that anyway, and that can tie into the character of the miniature and the model anyway. But there is our bronze flesh tone, so that is a little bit more of a more traditional sort of dwarven skin tone. Now from there, I'm going to paint a different kind of brown skin tone. So for this one, we're going to use a flat earth color. So this color now is something that I would normally use for things like a wood texture and things like that. But what we're going to do is we're going to build this one up into being a really, really different kind of skin color. So we're going to use this one for a really cool skin tone indeed. And again, I'm just going to use my basing brush and just cover all of the miniature in this paint and in this color. And then from there, then we're going to build all of this up into a really different kind of texture and a really different looking tone. This is going to be a really cool one. It's going to be, when I look through all of the ones that we've done previously and all of the ones that I have done in this video, this one's actually one of my favorites. I really, really, really love this sort of color palette, and I really love how this one comes out in the end. It really turns out lovely. So, like I say, just covering all of the miniature on my basing brush. Doesn't matter if you make mistakes, because we can go back and fix all of that later, as I normally say. So don't worry too much about being overly cautious or too perfect with your bases. Doesn't matter too much. We're going to use our soft tone once again. So we're just going to keep all of this nice and tight together, all nice and simple, nice and similar, so that this makes it easy to follow. And then we're just going to place this all across the skin that we've already painted. So as I said, with the darker skin tone, this is a great wash, because it will sit in all of those recess points, and it will almost tell you and show you where all of those muscle points and all of those sort of bulging muscles on this dwarf are really standing out and really sticking out on the model. Once that is dry, we're going to go back to the flat earth, because that was our base color, and we're going to start to build that back up using the exact same techniques as we've done before. So using the very tip of the brush, we're just going to bring the paint across with a little bit of water, and then we're just going to paint this across in little sort of scratchy patterns and a little bit of stippling, and we're going to pick out some of the areas where we want the muscle tones and the muscle definition to really stand off the miniature. So we're painting this in a way that this gives us the highlight then onto this tone. And as you can see, like I said earlier with the shoulder, I'm just painting down the shoulder area, leaving small brush strokes to create the illusion of muscle texture and muscle tone on the shoulders as well. And this creates another element and another layer of character to your miniatures. Couldn't get that word out then, I'm sorry. So this creates a really cool texture and a really cool level of character to your models as well. So this one really does build up in a cool fashion. So again, as you can see, just using this nice thin down paint, we're just going to move and manipulate this all across the muscle tone, all across those muscle textures, and it's already starting to pop and show this really great sort of different sort of skin highlight. And we've got this really great sort of color contrast really growing in front of us as we go. And there we go, just leaving some of those brush strokes to create and build that illusion of texture and depth again. Just trying to pick out where I want the light to be on the model, like I was saying in the previous the previous sort of color tone as well on the bronze flesh tone. We're kind of picking out where we want that light to be. And once that's done, we're going to use flat earth and beige brown, and we're going to mix those into half and half, so same as before, 50% of each, so just one blob of each. And again, using the very tip of that size 0 brush, using the exact same technique, painting in the exact same way. We're just going to build this one up now, picking out where we want the light to be, like we have been doing. We're going to create the illusion again with the texture and that muscle definition, just by creating where those brush strokes go, so that creates that depth and definition just across the shoulders, just like so, as you can see here. Nice and quick and simple, nice and easy, and just building and building and building those highlights, just like so. And this one's starting to take shape already. Looks really great on the model. It's got a really good sort of muted sort of tone to this one, so this creates a really nice character. And then when you build up all of those oranges and all of those golds and things like that, it really stands out on the model. Really looks lovely, really looks the part. So again, like I say, it's very simple, just using the same techniques across all 4 skin tones. And again, just around the face look, just using the very tip of the brush, picking out where I want the highlights to be and where I want this tone and definition to really build and come up through the model. And again, just doing the same across all of the muscle, and just using the shade, using the wash that we've placed on the model to do all of the work, really. Because the areas where that is sat, we're going to paint around that to create this character and create the tone, the texture, and again, just around the fingers, the knuckles, the hands, yeah, just like so. And with this nice wet paint, this nice thin down paint, it's going to dry down in a nice smooth transition as well. So once that's dry, we're just going to use the beige brown on its own, and again we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to pick out where we want those highlights to be, so just going across the chest area, across the muscle tone here, again trying to leave the underneath of the arms a little bit darker, so that we get that illusion again, that creation of shade and light across the miniature, just by painting where the highlights are going to go. Again, using the tip of the brush to build that sort of muscle definition across the shoulder blades, and where we expecting sort of all those muscles to bulge out, yeah, just like so. Look at that, nice and simple, nice and easy to do. It looks complicated, it looks fantastic on your model when you finish painting it, but it's so simple, so simple. And that's the beauty with painting. It can be made really difficult, or it can be made really easy. And the idea with this is, you may not like the color textures that I've used, you might not like the color combinations that I've used, but ideally what I want to show you, and what I'm trying to show you, is that just by jumping outside of your comfort zone and trying something different can sometimes have effects that you wouldn't normally think you would enjoy. But actually, when you try it, it really does give you the opportunity to try something brand new and find things that you might really like to paint. I also love doing this with different skin tones, because it creates a really great diverse look to your army as well. Not every person has the exact same skin tone and skin definition and sort of color palette to them. It doesn't matter where you're from, everyone is different. So painting your army all completely different even though it doesn't have to be so extreme, but just painting them all different or slight different shades makes a massive difference to your army, and it makes them look completely different when they're on the board as well. So once that is done and once that is dry, we're just going to use the beige brown, but this time we're going to put a little bit of the brown sand in as well. And this is going to be our final highlight. This is going to be the great, the sort of extreme highlight on this one. And this is going to build up and give us this real nice sort of subtle highlight tone just to the top end of this particular sort of skin tone. What we're going to do, as you can see, I'm using a lot of stippling with this one and a lot of sort of little scratchy motions. Again, with this size 0 brush, we're using this for pretty much everything on this during this video and during these tutorials. We're just going to build this up and control where we want the highlights and where we want the lights to be. So yeah, I was asked previously a little while back by one of my real amazing people on the channel, by a person called Michael Virtuoso, and he asked me a long time ago how I paint things differently across a whole army. So when you've got a big army of different models, or sort of if you've got rank and file army and you've got like 40, 50, 60 of the same models, how do you paint them different? And one of the answers is, although it's cool to paint sort of slight differences and variations in like the clothing and things like that, skin tones. Skin tones is a fantastic way of making your models look individual and creating different characters and different looks and feels to your entire army, you know? So just by painting all these different tones and textures and definitions, you can create an army that looks fantastic in such a cool and diverse way as well. And I think that's fantastic. I think that's probably one of my favorite ways to really build character in the army, is to really give them that definition and that texture of different sort of tones. So once this one is done, this is our light brown color. Like I said, this is one of my favorite. I absolutely love the tone on this. And again, by the time you put your golds, your oranges, and all of these sort of colors back on top, and you paint all of those details, I particularly think this looks fantastic. This is a really nice color tone. So as I said, I didn't know sort of which ones I'd like or which ones would work, because this is all brand new to me, painting all of these different tones on here. I just thought I'd try something different, and I think this one really works. This looks amazing for Fire Slayers. I think this suits the army style absolutely perfectly. So yeah, you have to let me know what you think of this one. So once that's done, part 4, then we're going to use light pink skin. So we're going to do the same thing as what we've done, but this time I'm going to paint something really bright, really vibrant, and really sort of really crazy. I'm going to do something really over the top. So for this one, this is kind of like the wild card, because it's always nice to have a really crazy wild card at the end of these. So you've got a few sort of serious painting themes, and you've got a few sort of serious kinds of looking tones, and then you have this wild card at the end, and see what people think and see how it turns out. So we're going to start with just covering this in a rosy flesh, which is a really nice light pink color, and this is going to be our base color. Although this is a light pink color, and it does look like a light pink color, this is actually going to be our dark tone. So this is going to be the darkest that the paint is going to look on the model, because we are really going to build this one up to be a very light skin tone, very vibrant, very bright. So this is why I say this is going to be completely different. We're going to move on from using the soft tone for this one, and we're actually going to use the flesh wash for this one. And the reason why I switched this up is because the flesh wash is a little bit warmer. Soft tone is a brown color, or a more brown sort of tone in its drying, whereas flesh wash has this sort of orangey, reddy kind of color to it, which lends itself really well to a lot of different kinds of skin tones. So by using the rosy sort of pink flesh, I thought if we use the flesh tone on this one, this will tie it in a little bit better than using the brown on the pink and things like that. So that's the reasoning why we've changed that. But again, I'm just going to cover all of the skin using this wash, and we're going to build this up in a nice even tone. Once that's done, we're going to go back to the rosy flesh. So we're going to start by using this pink tone and this pink color. And at first, when I started painting this, I will be honest, I didn't know how this was going to come out, because when I first started painting this, I thought, ooh, okay, so the area where the flesh wash has stayed has gone quite dark, and now I'm starting to lighten this up, and I'm not quite sure if it's going to work. but after putting 2 or 3 different highlights and layers into it, it actually does stand out quite well, and it works quite nicely. So stick with me, bear with me, we will get there, I promise. So using the same technique as what we've used on the other 3 models, we're just going to use the very tip of that size 0 brush, and this time we're just going to slowly build that colour back up, avoiding where the wash has sat in all of those recesses. So avoiding all of the areas where the wash has just sat down into the model, and then we're just going to build up all of the areas where the muscles are bulging and sticking out of the model and things like that. A little bit of water in the paint is always advised because this helps to manipulate it onto the miniature, as you can see. And with this one, you might end up needing to do maybe two sort of thin layers of paint to get this one to really sort of stay and stand out to where you want it to be, because it can be quite thin with a little bit of water. But that's cool, it doesn't matter too much, as long as we can build this up and sort of get the texture and the colour and the sort of character that we're looking for anyway. So again, we're doing the same thing as what we've done with the others. We're just going to build this up, and then we're going to leave some little brush strokes and things like that, just to create that illusion of tone and definition and things like that on the muscles, like we've done with the others and the previous sort of colours and the previous sort of tones as well. And as you can see with the arm now where we started, as it's starting to dry down, you can see why I had doubts to begin with, because that light pink colour just doesn't seem to be grabbing me at the minute. I was kind of thinking this is a little bit too extreme. It's gone from one side of the dark sort of orangey red tones with the wash up to this sort of weird light pink, and I couldn't really see it coming off. So anyway, then we're going to use the rosy flesh and pale flesh. We're going to mix these half and half, so 50-50 like we have done before. And again, a little bit of water just to make this nice and simple and manipulate this onto the model in a nice even fashion. So again, as you can see, I'm just using these nice fine thin brush strokes using the size 0 brush, our detail brush, and we're just going to build this up in a nice slow nice thin slow fashion. Again, if you need to do more than one coat, that's absolutely fine. That's probably a good thing because it gives you complete control where you want the light source to be on the model as well. So as you can see, I'm just going nice and quickly, just building where I want the light to be and where I want the skin tone to really sort of boost and really sort of brighten up as well. So yeah, at first when you look at this, you kind of think, oh, this is a little garish, this is a little bright, this is a little bit extreme, but it does get better, I promise. Like I say, this is the wild card, so it's always good to have a wild card. It's always good to try something new. Push the boundaries and experiment and try to extend your painting knowledge. And at the end of the day, painting is all about fun. We're here to enjoy ourselves, and we're here to just enjoy the hobby and have a little bit of fun while painting. If we can learn new things while we do it, then that's even better. And there we go, just using the tip of the brush again, look, just across those knuckles and across all of the details of the hands, just like so. There we go, there we go. Excellent. And the same sort of thing, just across the nose area and across the cheekbones, just kind of picking out where we want the light to be. And of course, just across all of that muscle tone, across the chest area and things like that. Just like so. And we blend in these colours in quite nicely now as well. Just like so. So you'll have to let me know in the comments below when you get a chance what you think of the wildcard colour and whether you think this skin tone suits the model, or whether you think it is a little bit too extreme. I'm open to suggestions, and you're more than welcome to tell me if there's any other sort of skin tones you would have gone instead of this one, or whether or not you wouldn't have tried this but it actually works, and things like that. I'd love to hear from you. So once that's done, we're just going to use the pale flesh on its own, and again using the same techniques, keeping this nice and simple, sticking to the same structure just so that it makes us get used to doing the same sort of things and painting in the same sort of way, and that gives us the opportunity to sort of build and learn together. Just going to build up on all of those sort of raised muscle points just like so, and you can really see now how bright and how light this is starting to get. So when I said that rosy pink color was going to be our base color and that was going to be our darkest color, yeah, I wasn't kidding with that. This one is getting quite light, but that's all part of the fun. So yeah, again, just watching and being careful across those fingers, across the knuckles, trying not to get the paint in between the fingers because we want to kind of pick out the details, just like so. And again with the face, again with the muscle tone across the chest, across all of the biceps and all these different things, trying to leave a few of those brush strokes to create that definition and that depth, as I've been saying all the way through. trying to make sure that I'm talking about different things and I'm not just repeating the same thing over and over and over again. But repetitive is a good thing, because that's how we're going to learn, and we're going to learn, and we're going to build up together by painting in the same way. Look at the way that that light pink now is just built across that arm. The texture and the technique straight through the arm looks really, really, really nice. There we go, just like so. Nice and simple, easy brush strokes, and we learn in and we build in a very, very simple fashion, just like so. There we go, we've got a nice highlight just down across this leg here. There we go, and again just going across the front side as well, where we want the light to be catching. There you go, just down across the calves now as well. Very, very simple, very, very simple way of painting, nice and simple, nice and easy. The idea is to try to paint in a way that literally anyone can sit down and pick up and learn and try, and like I say, have the confidence to really go for it and do all different kinds of things and try all different kinds of things. So from there then we're going to use a pale flesh and a light flesh, and we're going to go for an extreme highlight as well. And again, we're going to get a little bit more specific about where we place this, and we're just going to place this one just across those highlighted areas and some of the places that we really want this light and this highlight to be. And again, this is going to be, this is going to tone into the miniature nicely, because we watered the paint down, and this is going to blend in a really, really nice fashion. I'd also like to take a moment as well just to say a massive thank you to everyone on the channel as well. Lately, your patience has been fantastic while I've been working. I've had a lot of work that I've had to get on with, so I haven't had as much time to paint or make videos, and I'm sorry about that. And there will be more videos to come in future, I promise. I do have quite a list of a few different things that I have to do, and there is a big list for you guys. There is a big list. I have loads planned and loads coming. So thank you so much for your patience. But most importantly, thank you so much for every single comment. Every like on a video makes a massive difference to me. It boosts the channel, it shows the channel to new people. It is also a lovely way of you appreciating the content and showing me that what I'm painting is something that you guys enjoy as well. I was asked on the channel the other day what I would ask of you guys, what I would ask of you to help me out, and literally I don't ask anything. I don't want or need anything at all. I appreciate all of the time. I see the time of you watching and the thumbs up and the likes that you give me as thanks in itself, so I really appreciate it. I just wanted to make that clear that you guys are awesome, and I really love the positivity that you've all been bringing to this channel, whether it's through comments, likes, subscribing. Honestly, it makes no difference which it is. I just love painting and sharing that with you guys. You've all been incredibly, incredibly kind. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So once that's dry, we're just going to use the light flesh then, and this is going to be very, very extreme highlight. Look at how bright we've started to get this skin tone. And when I said we were going to get a really bright skin tone, this was going to be the wild card. This is bright. We've got some really, really nice highlights on this one now. This is looking really, really cool. And again, once we start putting all of our sort of golds and oranges, and once we get the normal sort of paint colors and paint textures up onto this one, it's going to really, really stand out. It's going to look so different. And again, when I talked about the diversity in your army and the diversity in the tones and textures, how amazing are these four models going to stand apart from each other while also sharing the same color theme and color pattern of the army. They're all in the same army. They're all the same guys. They're all fighting for the same cause. But man, they all look like individual characters, and that's so cool and so easy to do. So easy to do. So at any point you guys want to sort of build up a different kind of army, or have a little bit more diversity in your army, this is the easiest and the coolest way to do it. Is just mix up some color tones, go for it, and make some individual characters. Honestly, it couldn't be any more fun. So yeah, just showing you the last sort of stages of this one, just being very careful with the very tip of the brush and building up that extreme highlight. I particularly love it on the underneath of the arms. You can really see where the paint is sort of blending into the tones and building that highlight as well. It looks really, really cool. And as I said, at first it almost looks too garish, it looks too pink. But as we start to build those highlights up and we get ourselves to a really light sort of tone, it actually quite works. It works quite well. This guy looks like a really different individual sort of character. And although I was a little bit skeptical, I have to say quite pleased with the way that it turned out in the end. But you'll have to let me know in the comments below if you think this one works very well or if you think it's a bit too extreme. So all in all, once that one's done, we've got this light pink looking like this. And again, I've just put all of these bits on there just to show you what it would look like when it's done. So as I said earlier, thank you so much to everyone for tuning in, for watching, for subscribing, for commenting. Every single comment I appreciate. I take on board all of your feedback. It also helps the rest of the community. So when you talk in the group and when you talk and comment, it helps other people that might have similar questions. And I always, always, always do my very best to get in touch and get back to each and every single comment. So any comment that you make, I will do everything I can to get back in touch with you and to have a nice chat as well. So I really do appreciate it when you engage with the community. So thank you all so much. Let me know in the comments below if you thought this was useful. Give me a thumbs up if you thought that the content was cool. If you learned something, if it gives you more confidence to just jump in and just go wild with skin tones, I would really, really, really love to hear from you. So as always, my friends, thank you for everything you've done. I hope you liked this video, and I really do wish that you take care, and I will see you all on the next one.